My street has always been the same kind of quiet. Not peaceful quiet, but the type that makes you feel like something is watching you from the dark. For 7 years, our neighborhood barely changed. Families moved in, some moved out. But that house at the end of the block never changed at all. No lights, no sounds, no footsteps. People used to joke that the place was cursed, but I knew someone still lived there. Because late at night, when the wind stops and everything goes still, you can hear something, a shuffle, a slow drag across the floorboards. I don't know why, but I always felt like whoever was in that house knew exactly who lived in the street. Every night at exactly 11:46 p.m., a dim light flickers on in the upstairs window. Not bright, not warm, just enough to show a shadow moving inside. It happens for 2 minutes, never more, never less. Like a ritual, like he's checking that the world outside still exists. I timed it. I watched it for years. But tonight, the routine broke. At 11:46 p.m., the light didn't turn on. Nothing moved in the window. No shadow. No flicker. Just silence. Thicker than usual. And then I heard it. Metal scraping against metal. Like a rusty lock that hadn't been touched in years. The door opened, slowly, painfully slowly. I froze. Because the figure standing there wasn't standing right. His posture was twisted, like his bones weren't used to carrying weight anymore. He didn't step out immediately. He just stood there, facing the street, as if he was smelling the air. And then he moved, not in a normal way, but like someone forcing their body to remember what walking feels like. His foot hit the ground, and the street lamp above him flickered 3 times. Every dog on the block went silent. Even the wind stopped. If he hasn't stepped outside in 7 years, why did he choose tonight? And what does he want? He didn't walk like someone exploring the world again. He walked like someone following a sound only he could hear. He took 3 steps onto his driveway, and then he just stopped, completely still, not breathing, not moving. The entire street went silent. No cars, no wind, no animals. Like the world around us was holding its breath. And that's when I noticed something. He wasn't looking at his house. He wasn't looking at me. He was staring at the woods behind the neighborhood. I don't know what he saw out there, but whatever it was, it scared him. He tilted his head, slowly, like he was listening to something deep in the trees. And then he whispered something. I couldn't hear it, but I could see the shape of his mouth. It wasn't a name. It wasn't a word. It was more like a sound. The woods behind our street were always creepy at night, but tonight, there was something different about them. The darkness looked thicker, like it had weight, like it could swallow someone whole. Then, without warning, he moved, fast. Not the slow, stiff steps from before. It was like something in those trees called his name, and he answered. He didn't look back, not once. He walked straight toward the woods. If he's been trapped inside his house for 7 years, what could possibly be strong enough to pull him into the woods? I wanted to look away, but I couldn't. He kept walking. One slow step after another, like he was being pulled by invisible strings. There was something almost hypnotic about it, like he wasn't afraid at all, like he belonged to whatever was inside those trees. The woods behind our neighborhood were never friendly at night, but tonight, the trees looked warped, twisted, darker than they should have been. It felt like the shadows were moving on their own, stretching toward him. I know this sounds insane, but I swear the darkness was watching him. When he reached the edge of the trees, he stopped. Not because he was scared, but because something in there whispered. I didn't hear the words, but I felt them, low, deep, like the sound wasn't meant for human ears. And then the forest answered him back. Something shifted in the darkness. Not an animal, not the wind, something with a shape. A tall, thin shape that leaned forward, almost curious. It wasn't walking, it was gliding. He didn't run, he didn't scream. He knelt down like he was listening, like he was accepting something. The thing in the forest leaned closer. The air got colder, and I could feel pressure in my ears, like the woods was swallowing the sound. And then, they almost touched. He leaned forward. The shadow leaned forward. Their heads nearly met, like they were sharing something, or exchanging something. Whatever he found in those woods, it wasn't human, and I think it was more than just him. The moment he disappeared into the trees, I knew I shouldn't follow him, but something in me refused to stay inside. It wasn't curiosity. It wasn't fear. It was something else, like an invisible pull dragging me toward the forest. When I reached the edge of the woods, the silence was thick. Not normal quiet, but heavy, like the air was wrapped around my throat. Every branch looked wrong. Every shadow felt alive. The trees weren't just standing there. They were leaning in. I had the sick feeling that the forest knew I was there. There was a path, narrow, fresh, like someone or something had been walking it regularly. And the deeper it went, the darker it became. Not naturally dark, but the kind of darkness that feels like it's choosing to stay. I found footprints in the dirt. At first they looked normal, but the deeper I looked, the more wrong they became. The toes were too long, the heel was too sharp, and they weren't spaced like human steps. They were almost gliding. He wasn't walking with something, he was following it. The further I went, the more the forest felt alive. Shadows stretched across the path like fingers reaching for my legs. I swear I heard whispering, not from one place, but from everywhere, behind me, above me, under the leaves. And every whisper repeated the same pattern. like something trying to imitate speech. I finally saw him, standing perfectly still far ahead of me. Too still. He wasn't facing me. He wasn't facing the path. He was facing something I couldn't see, and whatever he was looking at was looking back.
If he knew what was waiting deeper in those forests, why did he come here on purpose?
He wasn't moving at all, not even breathing, just frozen in place like a statue carved from darkness. And the air around him, it felt wrong, like the temperature had dropped 20 degrees in seconds. That's when I noticed it. The darkness around him wasn't the same as the rest of the woods. It was thicker, heavier, like it had a shape, but was hiding it. And the deeper I stared, the more it felt like something inside that darkness was staring back at me.
I don't know how to explain it, but it felt like the forest understood I didn't belong there.
I heard something shift, not behind him, behind me. A branch snapped softly, then another, like something was circling, watching. When I turned my head to the left, I saw it, a shadow between the trees that moved without footsteps. And when I turned to the right, there was another one, taller, thinner, too narrow to be human, but standing upright like one. They weren't approaching, they were waiting. And then, further down the path, more shapes appeared. 1, 2, 3, maybe 4. They didn't glow. They didn't breathe. They didn't move like anything alive. They looked like the forest had grown eyes. Then the man finally moved. Not his body, just his head. Slow. Too slow. So slow it felt like bone was grinding. And when he turned his head toward me, he wasn't looking at me. He was looking behind me.
If all those shadows were in front of me, what was standing behind me?
My whole body locked up. Not because I saw something, but because I felt something. Cold air pressed against the back of my neck. Not wind, not breath, just presence. It felt tall, too tall. The shadows in front of me didn't move, didn't blink, didn't breathe. It was like they were waiting for my reaction, waiting to see if I'd turn around. The forest was silent, completely, like the world froze for my next decision.
Every instinct I had told me not to look behind me, but something was already standing there.
My hands were shaking so hard I could hear my own heartbeat in my ears. I tried to take a step back, but my legs wouldn't move. It was like the ground was holding me in place. I didn't turn around. I just tilted my eyes slightly to the side. And that's when I saw it. A shadow behind me. Long, thin, stretching across the leaves like it didn't belong to anything solid. It wasn't just standing behind me. It was leaning toward me. And the man, the one who came out of his house, he started moving toward me too. But he wasn't walking. His feet weren't lifting. He was gliding across the forest floor, pulled by something behind the trees. His eyes were open now, but he wasn't using them. The shadows on the path began to shift, slowly, deliberately. They weren't closing in on him. They were closing in on me. The shapes merged, stretching across the trees, blocking the way out.
I realized something horrifying. He didn't want him, he wanted whoever followed him.
The shadows moved again, slow, careful, almost gentle. They weren't chasing me. They were surrounding me. I could feel the pressure in the air changing, like the forest itself was tightening around my ribs. And then, the thing behind me finally breathed in. It wasn't loud. It wasn't human. It sounded like someone inhaling through a hollow, empty chest. And whatever stood behind me was close enough that I could feel its breath sink into my spine.
And that's when I understood I was never meant to follow him. I was meant to replace him. If you want to hear more about the story, let me know in the comments, like this video and subscribe to the channel with the notification bell on. And maybe I will check out in part 2. See you later. And a little disclaimer, pictures are generated with AI through illustration. And this story is completely fictional and not based on real events. And I see you back in a new video. Goodbye.